The magnitude of this event is something that we maybe didn't quite grasp until very recently. So a question for all of you, and Jessie, I'll start with you and then go down the line, is, what it has been like for you to be able to be involved in an event of this size when it comes to the city of Vancouver and its role and how it is positioning itself?
Thank you for the question. And yes, it is a big, big endeavor. I think I'll answer the question kind of a little bit personally and professionally, maybe separating out the two. I think personally, it's the honor of a lifetime to be able to lead, locally a team of people that are so dedicated to putting on a fantastic event. But at the same time, professionally, that team is complex to the largest extent in that it's not just a single team. We have people working from organizations across public and private sector, through the school systems. We've got sports teams. We've got folks that are so passionate about football, about World Cup, and it really feels like this is an all hands on deck type of event that everybody wants to see do well. And so it's, professionally, I think it's just been quite something to lead like an event that is so complex.
You must be a hell of a project manager.
I try. I've got a couple of old bosses in the room, so they might be able to tell you.
Royce, one of the things that you have done a remarkable job at since you joined Destination Vancouver is positioning the region really as, on the global stage. But this is at another level entirely. So how are you navigating that?
How much time do you have?
Well, it says we have 23 minutes, but I think the other panelists might want to talk too.
Well, it certainly isn't a one-person navigation. It really is a community navigation. And so it really is about determining our role. Vancouver already has a brand. It already exists here locally, or how people think about Vancouver globally. And so our role is to try to find the best stories to tell, engage the community in telling those stories, and making sure we're ready to welcome the world when they come en masse. But I think it's important to know as we navigate this that we've been doing this for years and years and years. The world is already coming to Vancouver right now. So what can we learn to tell the stories, to navigate the messages and the things that we want to get out there when we get the world's attention out here? As we like to say internally, we're not going to out-US the US in terms of media. No offense to our US friends. They are a media machine. But we have a storyline here in Canada, we have a storyline here in Vancouver, and that's what we're collectively working on to get those messages and that welcoming messaging out to our potential visitors.
Wayne, I think back to the Olympics, I can't believe it was 15 years ago, but the 4 host First Nations played a big, big role in the Olympics. Can you talk a little bit about your role when it comes to World Cup 2026 and the Musqueam Indian Band's role? Like how is it different from the Olympics, and how are you kind of working in this space now?
Well, I think with the Olympics, it brought our communities together, and sport brings our communities together. I see Joseph, who led the 4 host nations and the Indigenous participation, but the Olympics was huge, and the World Cup is going to be way bigger than that. So just learning and working with gentlemen like Royce and the city and the province and country, how we can better have Indigenous involvement and how we can welcome the world here and do it jointly. It was so proud. I was so proud to see my father-in-law and Chief Gibby and them all up front and center with the Olympics, and then our youth out there dancing and doing that. So just springboarding and how we can learn. We just finished the Invictus Games of the Grey Cup, how we can learn and work together, how we can welcome the world here to our city.
In fact, that's one of the things that I think will make our region stand out comparatively to the other host cities is our First Nations and the Indigenous participation. Yeah,
like I said, I'm so excited, and we just finished a tournament here in Musqueam with our youth, and I seen Bob Leonarduzzi when I came in, and as boys, as young people, we watched them and thrived, and it just got our communities so excited. And we just finished a youth tournament in Musqueam where we had teams from Fraser Valley, Vancouver Island, starting from our 5 and under, right up to our adults, and to be able to have our kids involved. And Coldplay and our partners from Pavco, you know, when we do a welcoming there, Coldplay asked if the youth can do it, and we stood behind them. And you know, that's the stuff that puts a smile on my face, to have our kids front and center and welcoming the world, and then giving that, instead of us being the motor mouse all the time, right? So.
Yeah. And that's the legacy piece for sure. Jessie, okay, given the kind of intricate planning that you're doing, maybe you could talk a little bit about where you're at in that planning process and some of the biggest hurdles that you're trying to navigate right now. Is it around, you know, public safety, or is it around, you know, just making sure that the pieces are in place to be able to host the team? So what sort of is on your timeline right now as you head into this last year?
Yeah, we have a lot of moving parts, and those moving parts cannot solely be managed by the city. So this is like a very, very large collective of people who are sort of dividing and conquering. One of the challenges about this event that is, I think, very unlike the other events is we don't yet know which teams will play. You know, and so I think that will play a large role in some of the modeling that we're doing. So what we're focusing on is making sure that the framework is right. We have a fan festival that we're putting on at the PNE. We have training sites that we have to deliver. We have an airport that needs to get ready. We have a stadium that needs to be ready. Safety and security is sort of number one on our thoughts and in our plans. And so we have a very extensive group of people looking at how do we make sure that visitors and residents stay safe and that we create an environment where we can have fun. We're working with the business community to identify like where the opportunities are. We've been talking about the opportunity in tourism. We've been you know, working on collaborating across organizations to ensure that as and when we have information that can be shared, marketed, converted, that we're sharing that information. We're keeping so many groups in the loop right now. And I think from this day forward, the momentum is only going to build and the information is only going to start pouring out faster and faster.
Well, I think the Olympics was pretty easy to see what some of those economic benefits are going to be. And there was a big piece of the Olympics outside of the sporting events that was around business hosting, and it was really connecting, and deals were being made and a lot of that. When it comes to World Cup, having been involved in a lot of these conversations, it's a bit harder to connect the dots for a number of reasons, and maybe partly because we don't know who's coming yet, and we won't know that for a bit. But Royce, can you speak about economic benefits for the region, and you know, where the opportunities are when we think about, you know, this audience here, mostly a business audience?
Sure. Maybe you could classify it in two senses, and that is start with the baseline. Vancouver's visitor economy last year was $9.6 billion out of a provincial visitor economy that's worth about $22 billion. So we are the anchor tenant of the province for sure. Mm-hmm. So the great thing about a tourism investment dollar is that when that dollar or that effort is being made, that return can happen into the community in 2 months, 6 months, in a year, very quickly. The return is very fast. So we look at tourism not as the end game, but the intro game. If we can get people interested in Vancouver, that allows them to get on ground, create the connections, and start developing the business contacts, whether it's through FIFA or other conference events, then we've half done our job right there just to introduce people in that. So that's the immediate visitor economy impact. But what's to say the larger investment impact beyond that tourism may facilitate? Oftentimes in our business, we hear people that come to Vancouver. I'll use Web Summit that was here just about 2 weeks ago, that had never been to Vancouver, and they showed up, and they were absolutely blown away with the way the city presented itself. And the constant refrain that we heard from many people we talked about is, we are going to come back here again. So you have an initial spend, we're going to come back here again, and it created business opportunities for potential further partnerships and investments through multiple and different sectors. That's the work that tourism can do.
Jessie, but how, maybe in a more tactical level, how does the business community get involved?
Yeah, you and I have had a few conversations about this at different points. And you know, one of the things that's really unique, I think, about this event is that unlike other events where business hosting has been the focus, I think that in this event, we have a lot of affluent people and business leaders and important global leaders coming to the city. And so with those folks, they will probably already be hosted by the event itself. And so for them, you won't be able to get your product, your service, yourselves in front of them necessarily if we're waiting to host them, because they're here to enjoy the event. I think we need to be very creative about how we sort of present what we have to offer to those folks. Be ready with like programs and packages and collateral to be able to showcase what we're doing, what types of sort of smaller economies we have in the province, what are the types of businesses, where do we excel, where our companies and our technology and our talent is leading. I think we have to be very creative about how we use the opportunity of all of these really, really smart global people in our city for at least those 7 days, and probably the night before and the night after, possibly. And how do we just attract their attention?
Wayne, what does this mean for you and your community, thinking about beyond the 7 matches and legacy? There were a lot of great legacy projects coming out of the Olympics, but what does FIFA World Cup 2026 mean for your particular community then?
I think I touched on it a little bit earlier to just express who we are, where we come from, and our culture. Yeah. When Rugby 7 comes, we have the Aborigines from Australia and New Zealand that we share stories and our culture and our teachings. And I think just in our community, they're so excited. Like I said, it's a soccer community, and every country that lands is going to be landing in Musqueam at the YVR airport, and to have an opportunity there to welcome everybody and express who we are and where we come from is something our past leaders have always stressed to us of be able to communicate and to teach people who we are, where we come from, and it's just being the chief now is just it's such an easy job because of all of our past leaders and the work they've done and the changes from the government. So it's I'm a lucky individual.
So we can expect to see Musqueam leaders at YVR when people are landing in and coming in for games.
I'm hoping I see our relationship partners there, and I think it's something that we can do is welcome to people. Our ancestors welcomed everybody here into there. A lot of people stayed. Yeah,
that's true.
I think we got caught off guard a little bit with that one, but.
Very true, very true, Chief. Okay, so let's
That was a joke, okay.
So we should just be prepared that maybe we've got tens of thousands of people who are going to stay after FIFA. You never know. Okay, so tickets, because there's been a lot of discussion about tickets. How do people get tickets? What's the process going to look like? And, BC Place is a wonderful facility, but I think there's only 58,000 seats there. So there's a limited amount of tickets.
Yeah. I'm assuming I'm taking that one?
You're taking it. Yep.
So if you haven't already, please go to FIFA.com and pre-register. That is where you're going to get all of your information on tickets. Tickets will start going on sale in the fall, and we will have to wait for the information to come down, and then it's a lottery. And so there are packages that you can pre-buy right now. There's a tournament going on down south called the Club World Cup. If you go attend that tournament, there are some opportunities to get access to World Cup matches. So those are the things that you can do right now. When the time comes in September, I think we all must cross our fingers a little bit. So that's going to be part of what is involved there. The more you can do now to sort of see what the options are, you can kind of get ahead of it through some strategies, especially I think Club World Cup is one that you could really leverage. The other thing I want to just mention on tickets is that oftentimes I think we compare the Olympics in 2010 to the ticket situation here. And it is not going to be like that. I think a lot of folks had access to a lot of tickets that were available. There was a lot of inventory that was able to be shared across partners. In this case, it is going to be quite limited, but that is why we are focusing on the fan festivals.
So how many of those will there be, and whereabouts are they in the city?
sorry, where
The fan festival sites, or are they around, they're outside of Vancouver too?
So yes,
right?
so the main fan festival site will be at the PNE Fairgrounds, and so we're working very closely, Shelley's in the room with Shelley's team as well. We've got our event production partners in the room, and we're hoping to showcase the best of what our province has. So we'll be partnering with our First Nations partners as well as the province to sort of bring the best of local food, local entertainment, all that. Now, separate from that, in the coming probably couple of months, we'll have information on how TSN broadcast licenses can be shared and kits around where we could set up public viewing across the province. So we don't have all the details about that yet, but we know people want to set up more viewing zones across all of BC, in fact, all of Canada. So the federal government's working on it as well. And so that information is going to come out. So this is one of the challenges that we have on this particular event, is that the details aren't all set already. And so they kind of come out in little chunks of information, and then we try to keep everybody as in the loop as possible, and then when the detail arrives, we try to share it and convert it.
Yeah, I think that is something that's quite different, where for the Olympics, it was just all there right away. Yeah. Okay, so people are coming to Vancouver or to British Columbia to experience the games, whether they're in the stadium or not. Royce, where are they going to stay? Because there has been a lot of discussion and concern about a lack of hotel space. What is the situation right now, and the work that is being done to work with government to take a look at this and maybe make some changes that could allow for more visitors to stay?
For sure. Firstly, they'll be staying at your place.
Excellent.
This is obviously the big question, and a piece that we've been working on for quite some time, and no surprise, we have the same amount of rooms today as we did in 2002. Mm-hmm. We kept our eye off the ball, we did not have the right climate, so we got ourselves in this situation. The Lower Mainland or Metro Vancouver has approximately 20,000 hotel rooms, not including the short-term stay rentals. So we've got a few thousand more rooms on there. The City of Vancouver really did their homework prior to the provincial legislation coming down. So when that happened in May, Vancouver proper actually didn't lose rooms. In fact, we gained a few rooms because we were already there in terms of understanding what policies could be. And so the conversation, 20,000 rooms here, short-term stay rental, rooms obviously on the island, and so on and so forth. The question or the conversation having now with the provincial government and of course with the city, is there an opportunity to allow for a short-term exemption to increase room stock pre, during, and slightly post the FIFA games? Do we need to do that to increase it and see if that opportunity can happen? And so that's a live conversation right now to see what it would look like. Mm-hmm. I think we have to be very, very careful though of establishing a precedent and having rules. Once you give something, can you take it back? I am pleased to say, although it's not going to solve what we have to deal with today, and that was that just about 2 years ago, there were 9 hotel projects in various stages in the development pipeline in Vancouver. And as a result of a lot of great partnership work with the City of Vancouver and others, the Hotel Development Task Force, there are now 23 hotel properties in various stages of the pipeline. Not going to solve for FIFA, but I think we have to remember that there will be a day after FIFA with the world's eyes on our city. We need to be thinking long-term and planning for that as well. So we think we can do short-term, but we have to be thinking long-term as well and using this to create that opportunity.
To my team at the back, I think I've gone through most of the Slido questions if you want to refresh it. But I'll pick, and I think I have actually addressed most of those, but picking up on your thought about long-term, Royce, how do we then, and this question's for you, Chief, how do we leverage this global opportunity to move ahead and to go forward on really important pieces that we're working on in British Columbia, like Indigenous reconciliation? What's the opportunity there?
Well, like I say, working with the government, working with the municipalities, and working with our partners, YVR, PAVCO, all of them, like I said earlier, we learn off each other, and we just keep building on it. And Royce is ready, right? We're talking about how we prepare ourselves. This ain't gonna be the last event. I think we've held world-class events here, and people want to come back, and organizations want to come back. So the more we work together, it's going to be beneficial for everybody. So we learn off each other and teach each other and figure out how we can prepare ourselves in the future.
A question here about volunteer opportunities. Perhaps that's one's for you, Jessie, for youth and for residents.
Yep, for sure. So we're going to have a few thousand volunteer spots, and they're going to be as hot as tickets. My two most common questions that I get are, how do I get tickets and how can I volunteer? So,
and will I get a blue coat?
We definitely expect a lot of interest. I mean, we're such a diverse city, and regardless of the draw, every nation on the planet is represented in our city, and so folks are just super excited. Again, like the tickets, FIFA.com, register right now your interest, and I believe the volunteer program, which we are working in collaboration with FIFA on, so we'll be running the program together, partnering on it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it should be launching in the next few weeks.
Okay. Royce, maybe I'll throw this one to you about how industries can collaborate and coordinate to hold activations. I know that you have been involved in lots of discussions, as I have, and Jessie, you have too, whether it's with BIAs or other organizations about kind of activating the downtown core and really beyond that too.
So yeah, back to your earlier question, how does business get involved? And certainly in the ecosystem of tourism, this is a service-based event. So there's all kinds of different opportunities to get involved. And I know working with Jessie and with FIFA, what are the opportunities to leverage a FIFA event, a viewing party, a thing? We know that these things are going to pop up all over the place and create these welcoming spaces. So what are the conversations we're having right now? And we're in conversations with our good friends down at Visit Seattle. What does a welcome to Vancouver message look like from the perspective of tourism? How can that be sent out? So businesses have an opportunity to welcome people in ways that make sense for that kind of a business. So there's not one easy solution here, Bridget. It is a work in progress right now. But this city knows how to host. We know how to welcome people. I'll use Taylor Swift as the most recent example. There were a few threads that were sent out there for activating, and big thanks to our hotel partners, the sign program that went around the city. That and many other things, people picked up on the thread and started to do their own activations, their own welcoming, inspirational events that made sense for their business. And that created a groundswell of sharing and other opportunities. As Chief Sparrow said, our strategic and competitive advantage is collaboration and figuring out the places to be. So I think more will come out, more as we share with our peer city in Seattle about what they're doing and learning from each other, that then can be shared with local business relative to what we're able to do to leverage the FIFA experience. So more to come.
Can I build on
Yeah,
that?
for sure.
Yeah, just a couple of suggestions for local business. I just got word about 20, 30 minutes ago that, for example, Science World is going to be hosting the FIFA Museum during the course of April to September. So congratulations, Science World,
Great.
Wherever you are in the room. That's awesome.
Great.
But I believe thematically that's kind of the pattern we want to follow. So we don't have all of the details yet, but we do know what the event period is. We know what the match schedule is. From the city's perspective, we are working very closely with multiple security agencies to make sure that we can host as many events as possible while keeping people safe. So our goal would be to try and enable as much activation around the city as we can within limits. So once we start stretching our security resources, that's the moment in time where it becomes unsafe. And so that's the balance we're walking. But for now, I would thematically start to get creative because we know what's going to happen. We just don't know the parameters exactly of what we won't be able to do. But I would start getting ready for it.
That sounds like a call to action. And with a minute left, I'll give Royce and Wayne your chance for a call to action to this group as the countdown clock starts. Okay,
I beat you, Royce, again.
I think you did.
Again, not a surprise, Chief Sparrow. Kind of repeating the message, though. Yes, this is the biggest event we will have ever hosted, but there's no city on planet Earth that's hosted a World's Fair, the Women's Worlds, a Winter Olympics, a FIFA, and Invictus Games. We know how to host. We know how to activate. We know how to be creative. We know how to be strategic. We know how to welcome the world. And I think if we think about all of those learnings that we've had, how do you take that, spread that knowledge through the business community? And I don't think the time right now on the stage is to get tactical. That we have lots of time in the weeks going forward. But we know what to do. We've created an expectation in the city to host, and I think that will be the learning and sharing that we can do going forward. DVAN, for our part, will be hosting a series of webinars and in-person events for our industry to connect and collaborate so that we can deliver, but there's all sorts of different ways to connect. Chief?
Just echo the comments, and in closing, I'm going to step a little bit aside. I just want to thank the city and the province and everybody in the business world. And Victor, we got a great guy leading us. I don't think, I want to say personally from on behalf of our community, I speak, I think, for all First Nations, I don't think we'd be in this situation in quite light with not having you there representing our country. And I think words can't express the gratitude that we have and how you reached out to us, and Bridget and yourself from there. I've always said we work together, the sky's the limit, and it's just, I can't express words of the gratitude that our communities and all of our communities have, and we keep learning. We just did the Invictus Games, and I see Robin there. We learned quickly. We hired Robin as our band manager after the Invictus. We learn these things, and it's so important, for our community to have individuals like that can come and help us move forward, and it's just exciting, and I can't wait for 1 year countdown and be able to host the world again. So thank you, Bridget.